Welcome back to another episode of John the PM, where we believe that managing projects is not just a job, but a way of life. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about change management, and some of the considerations that you might want to concern yourselves with. But in the meantime, I want to put you into play. Let's assume that you are working on a project. You're a team lead, you're the developer, you're whatever the role you are, but you are responsible for delivering this project. You notice that things are not going as well, and for whatever reason, people are not just that as excited about the project as you want them to be. So what do? You grab your team around and you say, "Hey, folks, what's going on?" And a couple of them, they reaffirm your thoughts. Hey, John, we like this. We're all super excited. We think that it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But our key stakeholders, whether it's the customer, whether it's the end user, whether it's the board of directors, they're just not that excited about it. What can we do? You sit back and you think back through your toe box and you realize there is a perfect framework that could help with this. What is that framework? ADKAR, ADKAR. Now, the original author of ADKAR is Jeffrey Hiatt. We'll put his name and all those information in the title notes for that. But for now, I just want you to know the acronym ADKAR, ADKAR. A stands for awareness, D stands for desire, K stands for knowledge, A stands for ability, R stands for reinforcement. Generally speaking, it is self explanatory, but I am going to walk through it fairly quickly here. Awareness. Do they even know that there is a problem that they need to rectify or to change? In other words, do they even understand why we are doing this project? Easier said than done. One, if they know why we're doing it, is there a desire to change? Is there enough pain where they're at and enough pleasure where they're going? So is there a desire? Knowledge. Do they know how to do the change? Literally, do they know how to do the change? And then A is the ability. Can they actually do the change? So knowledge and ability, they are closely connected, but one really kind of says, do we know how to do it? But just because we know how to do it, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can do it. And that's where the ability part comes in. And then R for reinforcement. Are we making this into a sustainable habit, organizationally speaking? So let's walk through a minor case study here. And we're just going to take medical, fitness, health, something along those lines. Everything that we talk about here is scalable and repeatable. So sometimes I just like to use things that people can easily grasp upon. Let's say that you have a medical condition that your diet could actually rectify. So the first question I would have to ask is, are you aware? Are you aware that diet is essentially medicine for your, medicine, food is a medicine? Are you aware that if you change your diet, in other words, reduce the sugar and the salt, that your health will improve? So that's probably the first question I would ask. Are you even aware that that there are potential benefits or side effects either way? But, in this case, benefits. Then do you have the desire? Do you want to change the way that you eat? Something can be absolutely good for you, but you may be perfectly happy where you're at. So there has to be a desire in order to change. So that's A for awareness, D for desire, K, knowledge. Do we know what we should be eating? In this case, you could probably do self help, read books, things of that nature, or you may have to bring in a dietitian. If you think about it from an organizational perspective, they may be able to self evolve or self figure it out upon their own selves, or bring in a consultant to help them. In other words, outside help. So that's knowledge. And then ability. Can you actually do it? This is a little bit tricky. Now, in the diet scenario that we're just talking about, in theory, you have control over what you eat, unless you are reliant upon somebody else bringing you the food. And if you're relying upon somebody else bringing the food and you have to eat whatever they bring, then you may not actually have the ability to make that change. That brings up an interesting point. If it's outside of your scope, maybe the project is directed towards the wrong individuals on that side. And as part of our stakeholders group, using again, staying with the diet analogy, we may have to bring in who the suppliers of those inputs, into the equation. So ability can be fairly tricky, but does that entity or person actually have the ability to do the change? And then, of course, reinforcement. Do you see positive benefits from this, or at least the avoidance of pain, whichever may be the case? What sometimes is pretty interesting is to, on a whiteboard, write down ADKAR, awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, reinforcement, and just kind of take a straw poll how strong you are in each of those areas. I would recommend a scale of 1 to 5, and just kind of 1 being not so good, 5 being awesome. And then just kind of see where your weak points are and address that area. So people may actually have a desire to do it because they're aware of it, but they may not know how to do it. Now you know that you have to work on training, for example. Other people may not want to do it at all. Why? Because they're simply not aware. That happens all the time. The senior executives, they know what's going on in theory, but the lower echelons may not know, or vice versa. The lower echelons may know that there's an issue and or concern, but senior management may not. In other words, you have to make sure that everybody has the same information, because generally speaking, if you have the same information, you're going to make about the same decision, as an entity, all things held equal on that side. At any rate, you can kind of take it there, take it from there, use a whiteboard. Once you identify where the weak spots are, the ones that are, 3 or below, for example, then you can put in specific plans in order to address those areas and get your project back on track. All right, so I know that was a whirlwind. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe. It helps us to help you and to be of service during your journey as you go either towards your certification or your career aspirations. We are here to be of service. May all of your projects be highly successful.